Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 4, sleep week. We're seeing the finish line. I'm hoping that you guys are all recognizing some results from this program thus far. So this is really when it starts to, hit home, because at week 3 of 4, which we're actually the beginning of week 4, you're going to start seeing the results such as decreased inflammation, better sleep, better blood sugar management, less cravings, maybe some weight loss, just feeling better in general. This is when all the good starts to happen. So please don't stop at the end of week 4. Now you have all the tools to continue on and keep up with this health journey. So stay in touch. I post all the time. I have programs all the time to keep everybody on this health journey. So good luck to you on your future health endeavors, but I am there with you and to support you whenever you need it. So anyway, we're going to dive right into sleep today and get started. So let me share my screen, pull up the presentation. So anyway, sleep. So sleep and longevity. These are the following things that we're going to discuss today. I'm actually going to put on the glasses. I didn't have them on earlier because it reflects in the light, but why sleep matters, understanding the stages of sleep, sleep changes associated with aging, the impact of those changes on aging, and then how to optimize the stages of sleep. The graphic on the slide actually depicts the circadian rhythm. I deep dove into that last year. So if you want to go back to last year's sleep presentation, feel free to do that and understand that the circadian rhythm is biological and it is very important in our future health. So making sure that we're respecting the circadian rhythm and kind of abiding by it is crucial, but we're not going to talk too much about that today. So why a good night's rest matter? First of all, poor sleep, increased inflammation, inflammaging. I've used that term a few times. So poor sleep leads to your immune system reacting, and your immune system actually will start to target healthy tissues, creating inflammation. Now, a good night's rest, on the other hand, produces something called cytokines, and cytokines are useful in terms of fighting certain infections. So poor sleep, decreased immune function; good sleep, increased immune function. What's really important right now? Immune function. And so we need to make sure that we're getting our rest. I've noticed that in kids in particular, if they miss a good night's sleep, they're much more apt to get a cold or something like that. So you can see it firsthand. So sleep affects not only physical, but it's also emotional and social interactions. So again, you see that first thing in kids and toddlers when they're underslept, how much how reactive they are, but also you can see that in adults. When you're, super sleep deprived, you're going to be apt to, scream at your kids or your husband a little more readily than when you're well rested. So poor sleep is also associated with depression and anxiety, probably due to the inflammation that it causes, and just in terms of not being your best version of yourself. Also, increased heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Sleeping 6 to 7 hours has a very profound impact on cancers, as I talked about last year. Better sleep, better performance. Any kind of athlete knows that getting a good night's rest is going to really increase your performance. And then in terms of, test taking or being your best at work, obviously cognitively, sleep really influences that. So just being your best all around. Lack of sleep associated with risk of poor metabolic health. So, and I've explained this before, what happens when you are in a sleep deprived state is you're also in a stress state. So your adrenal glands will secrete extra cortisol, which means that that's, as I mentioned before, a glucocorticoid hormone. Your blood sugar increases with that. So increased blood sugar, increased insulin, increased risk of metabolic disease, such as type 2 diabetes. And that is something that, we're all seeing more and more and want to avoid as much as possible. So, it's not only diet that influences risk of diabetes, it's also stress and sleep. So we've got to be thinking that way. And then poor sleep is also associated with increased calories, almost 400 calories a day when you're sleep deprived, which obviously will lead to eventually obesity and other issues such as poor hormonal control. So we already talked insulin, which is one hormone, but the other two hormones associated directly with appetite and satiety are ghrelin, your hunger hormone. Think, grr, I'm hungry. So you're going to have increased ghrelin when you're sleep deprived, and then decreased leptin, which is your satiety hormone. So obviously what I'm saying, nothing good happens when you're sleep deprived. So sleep is truly the glue that holds us all together. So what a good night's rest, it's trying to understand what happens when you're sleeping. For a long time, we didn't even know why we sleep, and we still don't know exactly why, but now we understand the stages a little bit more. So first, when you're falling to sleep, you transition from this light sleep to what's called deep sleep or shortwave sleep. I've noticed with my Aura ring that I track all the time, we'll talk more about this later in the presentation, that I get most of my deep sleep actually that first chunk on the evening. Then you transition to REM sleep, is where your dream state. And then that happens about 90 minutes typically later. And then you have a little arousal, and then you go through these sleep cycles again and again. And it's usually 3 to 5 complete cycles throughout a night. So you go through all of those stages. So light sleep, what the purpose of that is kind of the transition, and you're going into that deeper sleep. You're a little bit more aware of what's going on, although it has a lot of the same properties as deep sleep. Now, deep sleep, that is like critical. So deep sleep, you want to have a good chunk of deep sleep. I'm always trying to get 2 hours is my goal of deep sleep at night. So it's typically about 10 to 25% of your deep sleep, and it decreases unfortunately with age. This is when deep sleep is when you get a really good nights and you wake up and you're like, gosh, I felt like I slept really hard, and you're feeling really good. That's because you probably got a substantial amount of deep sleep. Your body produces 95% of its growth hormone, human growth hormone, during this stage. So you're going to be repairing your bodily processes. And your glucose metabolism, your brain helps to kind of support memory and learning at that stage. So that's usually, yes, you can get deep sleep later in the night, but usually it's happening mostly up front. And so that's why I always try to get people to go to sleep a little bit earlier, not to miss out on that deep sleep, which is so impactful. REM sleep, which is your dreaming state, is usually about 20% of your sleep. And again, you usually have about 3 to 5 dream cycles. And that's actually where you solidify new learning and memories. So when you're not sleeping well, you're not learning as much because you're not having that time to solidify anything new. My husband was just coming. He's read a lot about sleep too, and we took our girls snowboarding for the first time this weekend. He was saying, when you slept last night, you probably got much better at snowboarding because you were solidifying the memory of snowboarding. So it's true though. Whenever we learn something, whenever you really want to learn something, you study it that night, then get a really good sleep, and then you'll know more and be a lot smarter the next day, which is true. And then there's wakefulness. So wakefulness is actually considered a part of the sleep cycle. It's very normal to be awake at least part of the night. And a lot of times you are unconscious of it, but it typically is just called an arousal state. And I do see that through my ring. Sometimes you're conscious, sometimes you're not. Some other considerations to think of in regards to sleeping is the timing. So I did talk about getting to sleep around 10. That's when your melatonin peaks. So it's super critical to kind of maximize that. Latency, that's how long it takes you to fall asleep. It should, if you're falling asleep within a minute or two, it probably means you're exhausted. If you're taking a half hour, it probably means you're doing something to disrupt your falling asleep. So you want it to be more like the 5 to 10 minute range is ideal in terms of your sleep latency. Efficiency is just wakefulness to sleep. So how much time you're in that wakeful sleep to when you're actually sleeping. And then restfulness is your tossing and turning. And I can see all those on my sleep score. So I'm going to show you those later. But then I just have a little cycle to show you approximately the amount of time that you spend in your sleep stages. So sleep and longevity. So sleeping does obviously impact aging, and aging impacts sleep. So melatonin decreases. Melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, is secreted from your pineal gland in your brain, and that decreases, unfortunately, as we age. And mental and physical health conditions may also interfere with your night's sleep. So if you're, if you're older and you have a lot of arthritis, and you're on a pain, if you're sad or depressed, or you have some other condition that makes you uncomfortable when you're sleeping, obviously will impact sleep. Medications, a lot of them, if you look on their side effects, lack of sleep or sleep, problems are associated with a lot of medications. There's a slight reduction in the dreaming state, the REM sleep, but more profound you'll be losing more profound that deep sleep state, which again is what makes you feel rested and wakeful the next day. So unfortunately, that happens as you age, and you actually just are sleeping less, 6.5 to 7 hours versus 7 to 8. So you do lose a little sleep overall. That results typically in some napping as we get older. A lot of those are unplanned, and a lot of people just, need a little bit of a nap to make up for the lack of sleep they got at night. And then, one interesting stat that I did find was that men experience far greater disruption in their non-REM sleep as we age. I actually thought it would be women, but this was a PubMed study that showed that men actually suffer a little bit more in terms of non-REM sleep. So that's how, our sleep is, what happens when we age and how it affects sleep. So now the effects of that on aging. So just a single night of sleep can help make an adults age quicker in terms of their cellular repair and cellular structure. Poor sleep increases amyloid deposition. So that just means that the plaque in your arteries can be increased by lack of sleep, which obviously we don't want in terms of, blood getting throughout our body and into our brain, into our heart. Long-term chronic insomnia is a major cause of auto accidents, depression. Sleep deprivation can eventually cause confusion and other mental changes. And then as sleep, as I mentioned, impacts our hormones and our overall health. So if we're not sleeping as well because we're getting older, our immunity is decreasing and where our hormones are getting a little bit out of whack. So then from a vanity perspective, also sleep has a profound impact on our skin. So you can tell when you're not sleeping, you get the dark circles under your eyes, you're apt to see more of the fine lines and wrinkles. No fun. So unfortunately, that is a byproduct of lack of sleep as we are aging as well. So how we optimize each stage of sleep. So the two main critical stages, as I mentioned, are the deep sleep and the REM sleep. So I do have a post coming later in the week about supplementation. So I'm not going to really deep dive into supplementation here, but I'm going to talk about all the other things that we can do to optimize our sleep. So in the evening, taking a warm bath or sauna. So and that's just for relaxation's sake in terms of, before we go to sleep, but although we don't want to go to sleep too hot. A lot of people tend to run hot as they sleep, but this is just relaxation mode. A big thing I find with a lot of my clients is that we want to maintain that lower carb diet and no snacking before bed. Because what happens if you're eating a lot of carbs or a lot of sugar, especially before you go to bed, your blood sugar increases and then you end up waking up probably about 90 minutes to 2 hours within your sleep cycle because your blood sugar plummets. And that's what's happening, that's waking you up. So we want to definitely be eating a more balanced dinner, including a lot of protein and fat. And, a little bit of healthy carb is perfect, like a sweet potato or berries or something like that. But anything, really processed or sugary is going to have that profound impact on your sleep. So no late night eating, no high carb diet. Consistency in your sleep schedule. So a lot of people tend to, maybe be consistent during the week, but then, erratic on the weekends. That really is not a great way to optimize your sleep. You want to be consistent throughout the week. Getting plenty of exercise, probably preferably a little bit earlier in the day. Late night exercise, I would say past 6 p.m. can disrupt sleep. Stick to water and no, or decaffeinated herbal teas before bed. No caffeine, but obviously not too much. As we age, people tend to wake up a lot and have to use the bathroom a lot more. So obviously being cognizant of not drinking too much right before you go to bed. Creating that nighttime calming routine, definitely lowering the lights, making sure there's no blue light around, making sure you're in a calm state. So watching that crazy show might not be the thing you want to do right before bed. A nice calming book, a cup of tea, a bath, any kind of thing that's kind of going to take you into that parasympathetic, as I mentioned in last week's presentation, state versus the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight. We want to make sure that we're in that calm state. I mentioned brandishing bright lights. That's a huge one. People don't realize that when they're exposed to the blue lights of computers, iPhones, and even iridescent lights in their homes, that's triggering again to the pineal gland to stop producing melatonin because it's daytime. You want to wake up. So at 10 o'clock, if you're blasting those lights or looking at a bright computer screen, your body doesn't know that is fake light and it's telling you to stay awake. So making sure that, you have software installed on your computer and your phone to bring out that blue light on your computer. Very important. And then of course, optimizing your bedroom for sleep, keeping it cool, typically around 65, 68 degrees, making sure you have blackout curtains, making sure you have the right kind of mattress, the right kind of pillow, all of those things. I also like to be kind of distraction free in my bed. My phone actually goes in the other room. I don't sleep near my phone, no buzzing, no anything, and no disruptions. So that's my optimal sleep. And then REM, making sure that you also get enough exercise is important to REM sleep as well. Same with consistent wake and sleep cycles, managing stress throughout your day. So if you're in a stressed out state, you're not going to be optimizing that dream state. Magnesium supplement is one supplement I will throw out here that really does help to get you more into that dream state. Magnesium bisglycinate is the form that I take. Limiting alcohol before bed. So if tracking your sleep, you can see how much even that couple glasses of wine will impact your dream state. Following the circadian rhythm, making sure that we're optimizing our sleep time 10, 11 p.m. and waking at a consistent early time during the day. Also, I can say getting that bright early sunlight will really help trigger your circadian rhythm. And then again, following a bedtime routine. So these are just screenshots I wanted to show you for anyone interested. I wish I made money off of Oura Ring. I don't. I don't know why. I do love it though, so that's why I promote it. So this is just what I get in terms of every day my sleep scores. And I like this day I got an 89. I actually do really well. I usually almost get an 85 and above every single night. And a lot of times I get a 90 during the week. So I'm very proud of that fact, considering I was an insomniac for 30 years. It's something that makes me very happy. So total sleep time, 7 hours, 41 minutes. I was in bed for 8 hours, 13 minutes. My efficiency was 94%. My resting heart rate, 51. Resting heart rate, you try and get to be lower in the beginning of the night. If it doesn't lower till later, that's usually an indication that maybe you're not as ready for your next day. The next screen over shows my sleep contributors, how much total sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, latency. It only took me 4 minutes to go to bed, and my timing was optimal because I went to bed at 9:43. I am a party animal. So you can see here, I went to bed at 9:43, which during COVID winter, I am like literally in bed between 9:30 and 10 every single night. What else do I have to do? So anyway, optimizing sleep at this time, you'll see that the lower, the darker blue is my deep sleep. And then I come into that a lighter sleep. And then the white is the wakefulness. The REM sleep is kind of the mid blue sleep. So those are the different cycles and how I cycled in and out during my sleep. And then my resting heart rate. So tracks everything. I love waking up in the morning and seeing my sleep score. And I always try and actually have a game with myself that I guess it before I look, because based on how I feel. So do I feel like I got a lot of deep sleep? And I can be like, I know I nailed it. And then when I wake up and I'm really lethargic, I'm like, oh, I must not have gotten a lot of deep sleep last night. So kind of fun. So putting it all together. So that's kind of sleep in a nutshell. We'll obviously dive deeper in with all my partners next week and a few posts from me. And I will be hosting the Facebook Live next week. And so, but I just wanted to kind of say, okay, now you have the 4 pillars, and now we should be seeing that it's not just one thing, it's a big picture. As a holistic practitioner, this is the biggest thing I would like to stress. I feel a lot of people just focus on one of the pillars, and you've got to look at it more holistically. So all of these things are impacting our longevity, and they're all interrelated. We are very interconnected, species, both between each other and well within our own bodies. So we want to make sure that we're addressing things at their root causes and looking across all pillars. So I really, once again, hope you've enjoyed the program, and I look forward to hearing more from all of you as you continue on this health journey. Take care. Happy week 4.